Basically the title. My understanding is that this happened from shortly before I was born into his 20s, and I don't know when or if it stopped. This is all coming out after he went to a mental health facility following a suicidal event, not an attempt, just feeling suicidal enough to need to go to the hospital. I'm just not sure what to do now. I'm just trying to be there for him. Only me, his wife, and his therapist know. My boyfriend also knows, because I needed to talk to someone about it. He says he's working through it now with a therapist, and now that I know, a lot of things make sense from our childhood. By that I mean my brother's addiction problems growing up. I was never given any implications that he was being sexually abused. I have a 7.5-year-old son who in the past has spent time alone with my oldest brother. We do not live in the same state. My oldest brother lives with my parents. I just don't know what to do from here. I feel like my whole family is about to explode. My whole family is literally my parents and my brothers and my son. That's it for me. I don't have anyone else, except my boyfriend and my best friend. I feel like I'm about to lose my entire family to this, and I don't know what to do. I'm so afraid that something could have happened to my son, but I don't know how to have that conversation with him. I'm so devastated on my brother's behalf that I couldn't protect him, and also deeply grateful because I think he protected me. TLDR, oldest brother molested and raped my other brother during our childhood. I'm unsure how to navigate my feelings or where to go from here. I have a young son I don't know how to talk about this with. Edit. I posted this shortly after I was told about everything. It's been less than 12 hours since I found out about all of this. As I've said a few times, I don't have a support system in place where I live. This trauma is not mine to bear, but it does affect me on a very deep, multi-layered level. I will support my affected brother until the day that I die, and I will always be on his side. I'm not trying to make any of this about me, which is why I came here to post about it. As it's been pointed out by a few people, I'm going to have to go to therapy myself to process this and deal with the many emotions, thoughts, and feelings that I now have towards my family. I think that some people misinterpreted what I meant when I said I feel like my family is exploding. I don't feel like I'm losing my oldest brother at all. We were never close, and I have my own trauma from him. But the realization that I may have to completely distance myself from my parents depending on how this pans out, that's an incredibly scary and difficult thing to think about. My world is already small, and it's about to become smaller. At the end of the day, if this turns into me and my brother against the world, I would choose that over and over. He means everything to me, and I would never invalidate his experience. My brother does not want to pursue pressing charges. I will be putting myself and my son into therapy so that I can deal with this in the right way, and if there was any abuse towards my son, I can help him deal with that. Please rest assured that if my son had any abuse towards him, I will go to the ends of this earth to ensure that my oldest brother, any involved party, is put behind bars. I would do the same for my brother, but that is not my decision to make. All I can do now is continue to support him however he needs from me. Advice on how to specifically approach this with your son. The way we speak can sometimes suggest or influence specific answers. Because of that, I don't suggest speaking with your son yourself. A proper therapist who specializes in children and sexual assault should be able to help determine if anything has happened without influencing specific answers. Explain the situation with the therapist without your son being within earshot, and they should have more information on how to help. I also suggest therapy for you to help you during this difficult time. Good luck. 3. I will look into this. Thank you. I have no idea how to broach this subject with my son, and will be talking to a professional. My son has never given me any reason to believe he was being abused, but this is just based off of articles I've read. I'm obviously not an expert. If something did happen that he didn't speak up about or possibly doesn't remember, I don't want him to go his whole life feeling like I didn't try to get him help, etc. I'm only going to speak to say that I agree with people who say you should get your son a therapist that specializes in childhood sexual abuse to determine if anything has happened to him. I'm a survivor of child-on-child sexual abuse. It happened when I was 6, and I wasn't able to tell my parents until I was 27. They never had any clue or idea what had happened, and it affected everything about my life and my relationship with my family. You should of course be there for your brother who is the victim in this, as well as prioritizing your son and your own mental health in this horribly traumatizing situation. I'm sorry that you're going through this. Talk to your son and keep him away from the rapist child molester, and remain supportive of the victim, but don't leave your son alone with him either. Yep. So what you are talking about is an 11-year-old molesting a 6-year-old. This is called child-on-child sexual abuse, and it's a difficult subject. All abuse is difficult obviously, but when everyone was a child it has its own problems. Ideally when this happened both children should have been given help, but unfortunately it wasn't discovered. Committing harmful sexual behaviors at 11 years old is obviously not normal, and there is a very real chance your older brother had been sexually abused as well. I think you should encourage your brother who was victimized to look for a therapist who specializes in coxer. https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/child-on-child_sexual_abuse. From what my brother has told me, what he knows is that our oldest brother was molested at a young age as well, supposedly by a daycare provider. Beyond that, I don't know. I'm hopeful that, because he disclosed this with his therapist, and that this was one of the main reasons he gave for his suicidal episode, that he's been connected with someone who specializes in this. I'm so sorry, Opus. I'm sending you hugs. Does your brother know you told your boyfriend? He and his wife both know that I told him, and actually asked me to talk to my boyfriend, because I live hundreds of miles away from them, and do not have a support system here aside from my best friend and boyfriend. I'm so sorry. This is a lot to take in. Continue to support your brother, and get a therapist for yourself who specializes in sexual abuse in the family. You definitely need to have a difficult conversation with your son, and ask him if uncle touched him or hurt him. Tell him it is not his fault and you will protect him, and you love him no matter what. If he has been abused he needs therapy right away. As happened with your brother, deep issues can show themselves later in life due to childhood abuse. As difficult as this situation is, we get through it. Please take care of yourself. You're not going to lose your entire family. You're going to lose your Poe's older brother. Make sure you talk to your son. Maybe you don't have to be straightforward with him, but you need to make sure he wasn't harmed while being alone with your older brother. You need to let your parents know ASAP. Your poor brother's life was completely fucked up by this monster. So sorry this happened to your brother. It's terrible. Have you talked with your son to make sure your older brother hasn't abused him as well? Just a simple talk of what's an appropriate touch and what is not, and if someone ever touched him before/later, that he can always tell you. Making sure he understands that an abuser will threaten them, so they don't tell, so on and so forth. It's an important conversation to have without him having an uncle who did that. Now it is even more important. My fiancé went through similar at the hands of his oldest brother. I will now never let that brother near our children, ever, and honestly right now I just suggest supporting your brother, victim, as much as you can. The oldest brother deserves nothing after doing what he did. It would be a shame if your oldest brother went missing one day. Hey, survivor of sibling violence here. One thing I really struggled with was the idea that me coming forward about it meant that I was exploding my own family. This really threw a spanner in my recovery. So even if you feel that way, do everything you can not to let your younger brother feel that way. Make it clear to him that he's still got a family with you, and you're on his side. If he comes forward to more people, it can be a huge problem for survivors if people don't believe them, so be prepared to back him up. Especially if he tells your parents. Parents tend to be really at dealing with this kind of news for understandable reasons, but still, it can do so much damage to face their denial if he tells them. And never let your son alone with older brother ever again. I hope your rapist brother is in prison by now. Weird that the statute of limitations applies to so many of these cases, but not like murder. I'm sorry, but you should be more worried about your 31 meters brother's welfare than worrying about losing family. If your family defend a rapist and do not believe a victim, then they are worth losing. While I can logically know that that doesn't invalidate my feelings, My biggest concern is supporting my brother who molested and raped your older brother. Call the cops. Apologies, I've not got anything more than be there for your brother, be in his corner endlessly, show him consistent, unwavering love and support. As for the conversation with your son, seek professional support. There are great therapists that know how to talk with children about these matters and get to the root of issues, if there are any, without creating any additional problems. I hope that Motherfucker dies. Sorry about these dark revelations to your family, and I wish you all, especially your other brother, the best. I went through a similar situation and talked to a therapist about it. I found out as adults that when we were children my dad molested one of my sisters. Here's what the therapist told me to do. Reach out to the victimized sibling with small tokens of love and support regularly. You don't need to bring the attack up again and again, but inside jokes, I love youse, little things that strengthen your connection heal both of you. When your brother is ready to talk about it to you, listen quietly and calmly. Tell him you believe him, and it doesn't change your relationship, that you're here for him, etc. As for the other sibling, only you can decide if you want a relationship with that person and what boundaries you need to set. I'm sorry it is so hard to hear that news. It broke my heart too. But love and therapy do heal us. It just takes a lot of time and work. Yes, my half-brother molested my special needs sister. She's autistic and has the mind of a 5-year-old. And she hardly understands that what happened was wrong, and she was assaulted. My half-brother was disowned, he's not allowed here. It's as if she never had him to begin with, she doesn't call him her son. And I'm glad. It's a very disturbing situation, but make sure you stay away from that man, something is wrong with him. He needs to be locked up tbh. I hope everything will be okay. Did your parents know what happened?